Hi, I'm Dr. Kate Altizer. In this video, I'm going to introduce you to Franz Liszt's Les Préludes. We'll talk about the genre of the symphonic poem and an interesting historical issue with Les Préludes as it relates to its genre and Liszt's ideas about music. Finally, we'll talk a little bit about what you might expect to hear when you hear this piece live on the November concert by the DuPage Symphony Orchestra. For a biography of Liszt, you can check out the video on Hungarian Rhapsody No. 1. A symphonic poem is an instrumental work in a single movement with a known plot. Liszt coined the term symphonic poem in 1855 as part of a long discussion in a music journal called the Neue Zeitschrift für Musik. The discussion was about program music and absolute music, a real hot topic in the 19th century. A couple definitions. Program music has an extra-musical association, such as a narrative, image, or poem that is explicitly linked with the music. For example, the orchestra in Berlioz's famous Symphonie Fantastique depicts the story of a hero in a downward emotional spiral. Absolute music is, to simplify a complex issue, intended to be legible on its own, often bearing titles like Symphony No. 1 in F major. In his writings, Liszt dismisses absolute music as derivative and praises program music as innovative and poetic. And indeed, his 13 symphonic poems value the programmatic in their titles. Today's work, Les Préludes, Mazeppa, Prometheus, Hamlet. Les Préludes throws an interesting twist on Liszt's adamant defense of the programmatic in music, though, because the narrative he attached to the piece at its premiere and in subsequent years was not actually the narrative he composed it to. Les Préludes premiered at a benefit concert at the Weimar Hoftheater in 1854, with Liszt himself conducting. The program, both distributed to the audience and circulated among Liszt's friends, indicated that the work was inspired by a poem by French poet Alphonse de Lamartine, pictured here, and the poem begins, quote, "What else is life but a series of preludes to that unknown song, the first and solemn note of which is sounded by death," end quote. Liszt's program included a suggestive text with quotations from the ode by Lamartine, and this is the program that continued to be distributed in some variation for years, including in the 1856 Breitkopf und Hartel publication, pictured here. But it has since been confirmed that Liszt first wrote the music in 1844 as a setting of poetry by relatively unknown French poet Joseph Autran, pictured here. As Liszt worked on the piece, he may have found the poetry lacking and put it away, but then, in 1854, when he needed a new orchestral piece for this benefit concert, he revived it and framed it as a symphonic poem based on the Lamartine, poetry with more muscle. So really, Lamartine's poems, discussed in the previous slide, happen to be a convenient later fit for the various moods and atmospheres of Les Préludes, but were not really Liszt's original inspiration. The story highlights how we often think of these canonic works that get regularly performed as fixed entities. This is what Les Préludes is. It's been codified that way. But when these works were composed, their identities were often much more fluid, with composers adapting their existing material for a wide variety of reasons. As for why Liszt tried to hide the origins, it's hard to say for certain, but it might be important to remember that one of Liszt's primary means of achieving legitimacy as he transitioned from concert pianist to orchestral composer was demonstrating through his compositions his claims about programmatic orchestral music. He might have been embarrassed by the quality of the original poetry and therefore tried to conceal what really happened. Les Préludes is written for a large orchestra of strings, woodwind, brass, harp, and a variety of percussion instruments. The formal structure here of question, love, storm, calm, and battle and victory was suggested by the late and renowned musicologist Richard Taruskin. This piece is based on a three-note motif. It sounds like this. This motif is introduced in the question section. Sometimes in the piece it will be obvious and foundational, sometimes just a starting point. After the question, we have the love section. Here we can hear Liszt's affinity for vocal melodies. To me, it sounds a little bit like classical Hollywood film music with these long notes, vocal quality, legato strings. With arpeggiated accompaniment, it's also reminiscent of a singer accompanied by a harpist or a pianist. Next, we have the storm theme. Here the three-note motif is expressed very quickly, followed by a change in accompaniment to tremolo strings, which literally sounds like the strings are trembling. Here comes the storm. Following storm, we have bucolic calm. This section provides contrast and relief from the storm. The theme is very recognizable in long notes in oboe. Following calm, we have battle and victory. We have a recapitulation of the actual three-note motif with an extension in a full, heroic texture to end the piece. Whatever this beautiful piece's origins or true programmatic associations, I know you'll love the DuPage Symphony Orchestra's performance on November 18th.